Guys, you know I'm a bargain hunter, and so you should know that I know how to score a good deal on my flights. Here's how you can do it too. The number one thing you must do is to be flexible. And there are a few different ways that you can be flexible to get those cheaper prices. So of course, being flexible on the dates of travel will help. If you're going into this looking for cheap flights, but you have very specific dates of when you want to fly, then good luck finding anything on the cheap. If you can be really flexible, as in you don't even really kind of care what time of year you go, that is when you'll get the most savings. But even having a few days of wiggle room on when you depart and when you land will help as well. So let's start on the broad end. If, for example, like me, you have a friend who's just recently moved to Australia and you really want to go visit them, instead of picking a range of dates or a month where you'd be keen to go to Australia and then looking at the prices of the flights, use Skyscanner's cheapest month feature, and that will actually tell you what time of the year you'll find the cheapest flights. Flying to Sydney from London can be really expensive and cost like over £1,000, but when I use the cheapest month option on Skyscanner, I was able to see that traveling in May time actually means I could get flights for about £500, half the price. If you're not quite that flexible, you can also use Skyscanner to search a specific month and see which dates during those months you'll find the cheapest flights. And finally, if you don't quite have that much wiggle room, you can use Kayak to search a range of dates, and it will give you a grid that shows you which departure and arrival combinations will give you the cheapest flights. You might want to leave on a Saturday for your trip, but probably most other people do, so the flights on weekends often are a lot more expensive. But if you give yourself some wiggle room, you might find that flying on Thursday or flying on Sunday or Monday actually could save you a couple $100s. Okay, so you can be flexible on dates, but also you can be flexible on your destination. By being open to exploring other areas of the world that you might not have thought of, you could actually find really great deals. I'm currently in the process of doing this for a surprise birthday trip that I'm planning for my husband. I kind of have an idea of some parameters of what we want to do. For example, probably want to go in February or March, and we want to go somewhere where it's going to be warm and probably has a beach. I had a few destinations in mind that I thought would work well. However, the flights didn't end up being that cheap. So what I did is I used Skyscanner's search everywhere feature for dates in February and in March, which actually shows you all of the cheapest flights from your airport. So by using that, I actually found some really cheap flights for destinations that fit what I want to book, but I never would have thought of before. Sorry, I can't tell you where we're going because it's still a surprise. Eventually you'll find out on Instagram. And finally, being flexible on what airport you fly into and out of can help you save as well. For example, if you're flying out of New York, make sure you're searching all of the New York airports, not just JFK, because sometimes you can get cheaper deals going into Newark. Or there are lots of budget airlines in Europe that fly into cities that are outside of the main city you want to go to, and you can actually get really cheap flights that way. For example, if you want to go to Florence from London, instead of flying directly into the Florence airport, which is usually very expensive, you can fly with EasyJet or Ryanair into Pisa and just take a 1-hour bus into the city. In that scenario, you're probably going to save at least a couple $100s. And when you're searching for flights, always make sure you check the little box that says search nearby airports. You might not know that there's actually other airports nearby that you could fly into instead. Being signed up for AIRLINES email list can sometimes mean that you'll get notified first of any deals or discounts that are happening. Make sure that you're signed up for the email newsletter of airlines that are hubbed at your airport. For example, British Airways and Virgin Atlantic are operated out of London's airports, which means that a lot of the flights that I'm going to search for to different places will probably show up as BA or as Virgin. And they have tons of flights out of London every day. So I'm going to want to know as soon as any deals and discounts are made available from those airlines, and I do because I'm signed up to their newsletter list. You should also do the same thing for any airlines that are part of the same points network that you're currently getting points for. So even if you don't actually get a cheaper deal, at least you're getting the points for your rewards. You'll also be notified of any good reward deals. And finally, if you have a specific destination in mind, like if you want to come to London, make sure you sign up for the main airlines of those destinations, so Virgin Atlantic and BA. A lot of budget travel experts say that there's a specific time of the week and a certain amount of weeks out from your travel date that you'll find the cheapest flight. I don't really believe that because I've booked flights at a really cheap deal that actually completely contradict those. And even if they are true, it's probably only by a few dollars, so you won't even really notice the difference. Instead, what you should do is a few months before you want to travel, set up price alerts. You can do this on pretty much any of the meta search engines, as well as the AIRLINES direct websites. And this will essentially let you know if prices for your desired travel dates and destination go up, or if they go down, and when's going to be a good time to buy. Only do this though if you're a few months out from traveling. If you're only like 1 or 2, you're not really going to benefit from it. Now, when you're searching for flights, never use just one website. I always use at least 3. My go-to meta search engines are Kayak and Skyscanner, and the reason I use both is quite often I'll think I find a really cheap deal on, say, Skyscanner, but then I check on Kayak and they actually have even cheaper deals. You'll also want to make sure you're checking AIRLINES direct websites. Sometimes flights can be a little bit cheaper, not always. Sometimes there's like little add-on deals, or you can part pay with points, and that you won't know if you're going through a meta search engine. You'll only know that if you're going through the AIRLINES direct website. Going back to being really flexible for a bit, there are some travel hack sites that can alert you when there are error fares, which are essentially when airlines mess up their fare reporting and they offer super cheap deals. And they also just let you know when there's sales going on or anything that pops up that just happens to be super, super cheap. In the US, Airfare Watch Dog is a really great one for that. And while I'm in the UK, I keep an eye on Holiday Pirates, which has a UK version of the site, but also a few different countries around Europe. So essentially what you want to do is sign up for their email list or follow them on social media. And as soon as you see a really great deal come through, you'll want to book it as soon as possible, because those deals will never stick around for long. Again, flexibility really pays off in the end when it comes to saving, so try to be as flexible as possible. Part pay with airline miles. If you've been building up some airline miles on one of the reward schemes, you might be at the point where I always am, where it's never really enough for a whole flight, or it is, but then the taxes don't really make sense for using all of those points. What some airlines let you do instead is part pay with your points. This doesn't always work out to be the best option for saving money, but hey, if you're really short on cash and you have some points left over, then you can use those to save some money. For example, the other day I just booked a last minute flight to New York, which wasn't that expensive anyway, but I was able to actually save 115 pounds by using 13,000 of my Avios, which actually ended up being about 25% off the price of the flight. I also recommend keeping an eye on travel points hacking sites that will let you know ways to easily and cheaply get more points quickly, but also how to spend them most efficiently. In the US, there's the Points Guy. That's the most popular site. And then in the UK, we have Head for Points, which is always talking about Avios and Virgin Atlantic. So what's the best deal you've ever gotten on flights before? And what is the most expensive flight you've ever had to pay for? Let me know down in the comments below. I love hearing about deals, and I will sympathize with you for the expensive ones. If you click my face popping up here, you can subscribe to my channel for more travel tips every Thursday, and then you can watch this video next.